Good evening, everybody. My name's Anthony Faso, and I'm going to share a few ideas that I wish someone had told me before I bought a house. Now, I believe that Gina gave a little bit of my bio, and I was real excited about this idea and this concept of putting a seminar together to educate people who are looking to buy a home. I think it's fantastic. Unfortunately, I am out of town at another conference. However, that's why I am recording this in video. And what you're probably saying is probably what I would be saying if I were you. Oh, great, this is going to be a video. It's going to be boring. So you probably have pulled out your phone already, which is great. A great opportunity to start following me on the social of your choice. Now, when Gina asked me about this, at first I had no idea what I was going to say. And then that night, as I was laying in bed, I started, what would I want to hear if I was at that seminar? If I was looking at buying a house, what are some of the things that I wish someone had told me? Thus, that's where I got the title. And then I started thinking of these different things that I wish somebody would have told me. And so that's what I'm going to share today. And to be honest, some of the things I'm going to say, you're not going to like. But however, I do think that there's some things that you need to hear. And often those are things that you don't want to hear. So bear with me and let's get started. Things we're going to cover today, we are going to follow the money. Opportunity knocks, taking responsibility, your most valuable asset, and invest in yourself. I don't know about you, but for me, I can't multitask. When I'm at a seminar, I hear somebody speaking, and I want to take notes because there's some good nuggets there. However, when I go to write it down, I lose track and I can't follow what they're saying. In order to help you with that, I am going to share my notes. So all of the little details are the outline that I use to prepare this. And in addition, there's going to be links to some of the resources that I'm going to be referring to. If you want to take notes, go for it. But if you don't, sit back and relax, and hopefully you will learn a few things. Okay, next, let's follow the money. You should keep an eye on your credit score. I just said an eye. I don't want it to bother you too much because really the only time our credit comes into play is when we need to borrow money from others. And ideally, we don't want to overuse that. However, your credit score can be important, so we at least need to keep an eye on it. Now, what I recommend, and this is what I do personally, I use Credit Karma. And that is a free service that will review my credit without dinging my score. And I can get an estimate or a range of how good or bad my credit is. And it'll also give me some information on if there's any inquiries or if there's any dings on there. Now, I do think it's important to see your true credit score. And you can get that for free at annualcreditreport.com. Now, this is different than freecreditreport.com because freecreditreport.com, this may be a shocker, is not exactly free. The annualcreditreport.com is. You're allowed to get one free credit report per year from each of the credit agencies. Ideally, I'd recommend once a year that you go on there and pull your credit. Also, as you may have heard, there's a lot of identity theft. I do think it's important to have some sort of credit monitoring protection. LifeLock is one that I use, but there are some others out there. But the important thing is, for one, not to worry too much about your credit, but you also need to make sure that you do protect your credit. Next, we're going to talk about keeping track of your spending. Now, one of my mentors told me a quote saying, "You cannot manage what you don't measure." And that really talks about everything in life and particularly your money. If you want to manage your money or know where it goes, you need to have some way to measure it, to kind of track you're spending. And I know we're all very busy, and it can be very difficult to keep track of. I don't think anybody has, or few people, I don't want to insult if anybody has the old school check register where they log everything. Most people don't do that. And what happens is they don't keep track of their money, and then there can be maybe some recurring expenses that they thought were canceled and weren't, or there could be some money that is maybe mistaken, and unless they look into it, they're never going to know. And more importantly, you need to know where your money is going. So really what we need is something that's easy to use, takes very little time, ideally that you could have on your phone or the computer, and is free. So what I recommend is a program called mint.com. Just how it sounds. It is owned by the same company that owns QuickBooks and TurboTax. Very great and sound company. But what they will do is you can link your Mint account to your various banks and credit cards. Then it will pull that information and it'll give you a list. It'll actually categorize them for you. They're not always the best at it, but at least it's better than doing nothing. And you can also get a weekly report. You can also set up a budget in there. And again, it's very easy to use. It's very quick, and it is free. This next section I call Opportunity Knocks. Now, what are you going to do if or when somebody in your family loses their job or becomes ill, or when the hot water heater breaks? You're going to need to have access to money that is liquid, meaning you have easy, quick access to it. And that's money that you don't want to invest. You want to make sure that that money is going to be there when you need it. How much should you have? It all depends on your family situation. However, I'd say a rule of thumb is 6 months of living expenses. I would encourage you to focus on that before you start investing. Because when life happens, if you have some money invested, what's kind of weird, life happens to you when stuff isn't so great in the economy. And the last thing we want to do is have our money invested and not being able to access it. So you're probably wondering, well, great, so where do I store that money? Putting it inside a savings account is okay, but at the end of this, I'm going to give you the link to our online video course, the Infinite Wealth course, and in there we're going to show you the best place to store your opportunity fund. This next section is called Take Responsibility. You guys are looking at buying a house. Well, that's probably the largest transaction that you have ever done and probably ever will. You're going to be the one signing your name at the bottom of that contract. So you need to take responsibility for what you are signing. So you need to make sure that you ask questions and you know what you are saying. Now, the people you're dealing with that are in this room are full of ethics. Unfortunately, not everybody you're going to deal with has ethics. So that's going to be your responsibility to determine that. So I want you to be empowered to ask questions. If you ask questions and that other person is giving you a little attitude, well, you know what? Pick up and go somewhere else. You have the power. You have the control. And if you don't know what questions to ask, then ask what questions you should ask. Okay? This should all be a learning experience. And I will tell you, even if somebody does have ethics, you know what? People make mistakes. There was a time that when I bought a house, we had already paid for the appraisal, and in the HUD-1, it had put in as if the mortgage company had paid for it. And because I went through and looked at it, I was able to tell them, wait a minute, you can't charge me for the appraisal because I already paid for it. I would hope when everything settled down that they would have figured it out and given me the money back. But what if they didn't? And I will tell you, when you're dealing with somebody and you start asking questions, they're going to take you more serious. Your most valuable asset. Now, let me ask you, what would you say your most valuable asset is? You may say, hopefully you don't say your car. You may say your IRA or 401k. That's not it. You may say your house, and that's not it. The most asset that's going to create the most value over your lifetime and income is that person in the mirror that you see every day. Now, let me ask you, do you have insurance on your assets? Do you have insurance on your house, on your car, maybe on some jewelry? If you have a business, you probably have some insurance on that equipment. But I ask you this, how will you pay your bills if you were to pass away? Or you were to become ill? Or if you're injured? Who's going to help your kids go to college or help pay for some of their expenses as they're a kid if you are unable to pay it? Thus, you need to insure your most valuable asset. If you insure your car and all these material things, then why don't you insure the most valuable asset yourself? Now, that is something that we can help with. And then if you go to our course, the Infinite Wealth course, we will have some videos on that as well. Okay, let's expand on the notion that you are your most valuable asset. Wouldn't it make sense to continue to invest in your most valuable asset? Now, when you finished your formalized education, did you sit back like, oh, great, I don't have to read anymore, I have learned everything I need, and I am good? If you did, which many people do, it's going to be very difficult to get ahead in life. I would encourage you that your education didn't end. In fact, that's when it truly begins. Because before, when you're in school, somebody's telling you what you need to learn. And if you went to college, you had to pay somebody to tell you what to learn. But now that you're out of the formalized education, you have the power. You can choose whatever you want to learn, that you need to invest in yourself. In fact, my son wanted to learn more about business and talk to me about going back to school and getting a degree in business. And I told him, you could learn more about business on the books that I have on my shelf than you would getting any sort of MBA. So doing that, what I would do is I would encourage you to make yourself better. If you're an employee working for somebody, maybe there's some things that you can learn or some skill sets you can add that'll make you more valuable to them. Thus, you should be able to deserve a raise. Or maybe you want to do something different. If you're not happy where you're at, that's when you take responsibility and do something about it. Well, go learn how you can do something else. And I'll tell you, right now, it has never been easier to learn more and to invest in yourself. One way are books, and another great way are podcasts. I mean, there is so much free information out there on many different subjects that you can start becoming an expert in almost everything as long as you are willing to put in the time. Now, what I get oftentimes is, Anthony, that's great. You know what? But I'm so busy. I'm working. I have kids. I need to drive them around. I have zero time to really read. I'd like to, but I can't. And I say BS. Now, remember earlier, I kind of gave the disclaimer that I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Okay? Because what I would challenge you is to find a way. And one thing I'd look at is, how often you watch TV? I mean, if you really sit back and looked at how, if you binge watch Stranger Things, which is a great show. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch TV, but you need to make sure that you are learning as well. Now, and here's why I'm saying BS. Because let me ask you, do you drive? when you're driving those kids to school and you're driving to work, you know what you can do? You can have somebody read a book to you. It's called audible.com. What it is, it's $15 a month, and you get one free audio book a month. And if you want more, you get it at a discount. So the excuses, that's why I'm saying BS. Because you can literally, for $15 a month, have somebody read you a book inside your car or at your gym or when you're at soccer practice or you're at a plane. They'll read it to you anywhere. Let's do some quick math. When I send you the notes, I'm going to give you some examples of some books that I recommend and also some podcasts. The first book I recommend everybody to read is called The Compound Effect. Now, on Audible, this book is 5 hours long for the author to read it to you. You know what's pretty cool about podcasts and Audible is that you can adjust how the speed on how fast they read it to you. I typically will set the speed at 1.5 times. What that means is a 5-hour book will actually only take 3.3 hours. For me, my commute is 20 minutes to the office, 20 minutes back. So it's 40 minutes. And let's just say I only work 5 days that week. Well, that's 200 minutes that somebody is going to read to me. And 60 hours in a minute, that's 3.3 hours. Thus, without me making time to read, I just turned off the sports radio or the talk radio or Sirius radio, and instead of listening to music or talk, I had somebody read to me so I could learn, and it literally took 0 extra time. And I read an amazing book that is going to help change me and make me a better person. Not just financially, but this actually made me a better husband. And if we ever meet, I can tell you the story on how this helped me become a better husband. I was already an awesome one, I think, but it made me even better. So I would challenge you to have somebody read to you. Okay, that wraps up what I wanted to cover today. And in summary, we talked about following the money, is keeping an eye on your credit and also managing and viewing where your money is going, creating an opportunity fund, taking responsibility. You guys are about to embark on one of the biggest financial decisions you ever will make, and just make sure that you ask any question that you want. We also talked about what is your most valuable asset, which is yourself. Thus, you need to invest in yourself. Now, if you want to learn more of what we do, we've actually created an online course called the Infinite Wealth Course. And if you go to that website, or when you do, you will need to sign up. It's a free account. And once you do, you have access to all of our content. This first one here, when you watch this, I will explain how you can download these videos to your phone. That means that you can watch it while your kids are at soccer practice, and you can even listen to it while you're driving. I do want to point out that this portion here, the vault, that is a great way to build wealth and store your opportunity fund. And this Finance 101, we're going to cover a ton of topics. And one that I think might be very interesting to everybody in this room is, should I get a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage? Oftentimes we're told that the 15-year is going to save us more money. However, what we do is we actually do the math on both options. And you may be surprised on what the answer is. After watching these videos, if you do want to meet with me, you can click right here and you can schedule an appointment online. We could do an online video, or ideally I prefer an in-person meeting. Now, one thing I haven't talked about is what it is that I do. What we do is we teach people how to incorporate those 5 concepts that we shared, and how you can use that to build wealth and to create some passive income. Now, we do have a requirement to work with us, and we're actually very strict on that. So if you go to a typical financial planner, they may have a certain dollar amount that you need to have before they will even talk with you. But our business model is very different. We're big on education. It doesn't matter to us how much money you have now. We want to teach you how to get more money later. So the 2 requirements we have, the first one is you have to be willing to start saving. Hopefully you've already started, but if you're not willing to start saving, then you know what? We really can't help you and will not work with you. Our second one is you have to be willing to take action. You may have heard the saying, knowledge is power, but I would hit that BS button on that as well, because everybody has knowledge. And even when you start reading these books and these podcasts, you're going to get knowledge, but you know what? It doesn't mean a thing unless you're willing to take action on it. So you need to be willing to start saving and to take an action. Speaking of action, you will be getting an email in the next few days with a copy of my notes. We'll have links to some of the websites that I mentioned, a recommended reading list, recommended podcast list. Also, we have some bonus features. I couldn't shove all I wanted to cover in today. So we're also going to talk about, or you'll see my notes about, is your house an asset? And how much money should I really be saving? I appreciate the time. I wish I could have been here in person. However, if you start following me on social media, the next time I do this, I will be streaming it live, so it'll be a little bit longer. There'll be a way to answer questions as well. Now, I hope you enjoyed my session and are open to meeting these other great people that are here on stage. I wish I could have been here, but I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person, and have a fantastic evening.